From the Weather NorCal Command Center, this is your morning update.
Well, good morning, everyone. As we take a look at the heat signatures coming in from the fires, really the most activity we saw last night was as to be expected in the Six Rivers complex right here. You can kind of see it flares up, but here in the early morning hours, we're seeing it kind of break, or should we say just kind of quiet down. It's settling down a little bit. And that's typical behavior, especially with these bigger fires. They kind of flare up a little bit, and then, of course, they kind of settle down. And that certainly is what we're seeing here this morning. Also looks like there was a little bit of activity here from another fire to the south and east. So many fires out there, it's kind of hard to know exactly which fire that is, but we're seeing a little bit of a flare up there as well before it too settles down here. So that's good news early this morning, is that we are seeing most of that activity kind of out of here. All right, not sure to say out of here, but we're seeing it kind of settle down. All right, let's take you fire by fire and take a look at the fire tracker. Here is the head fire in Siskiyou County. Now, when you see these colors here, what that's telling you is that this is activity that is at least a day old. So we're looking at the most recent activity that the satellite data or the satellite is picking up on when it comes to heat from the fires. So this fire, the head fire, is not really showing over the last 24 hours that there's been a lot of heat coming from the fire, which means it's been less active. So that's good. And when we look at the latest fire perimeters here, it hasn't changed much over not only the last 24 hours, but really over the last few days. I haven't had to change these lines going to the different communities, so the distances are pretty much remaining the same for what I've been reporting over the last few days. Same thing with the Scott fire. As you can see, we're seeing yellow on the map there, indicating no really recent activity that the satellite is picking up on. Happy Camp, same situation with U-Fish and the Malone fire, all looking at the yellows and oranges. That is a day or two old. We're not seeing any red, which is the most recent activity. So again, this is some great news that we're getting here. Now, a lot of the reason for that is the fact that we saw the rain earlier this week. That helps to kind of smolder the fire a little bit, right? It kind of quiets down, but as things start to dry out, we might start seeing some more activity coming from these fires. So it's something that we'll have to track and monitor here for you. And hopefully the firefighters during this time, when a lot of the fires are really settling down, that they can really make some ground on this. There you can see same situation with the deep fire. Once again, we're not seeing any recent activity here. The fire perimeter has not changed over the last 24 to 48 hours. You can see the distances are pretty much remaining the same as well. Same situation as we take you down to Highway 299, Helena, Junction City, and not to mention Weaverville. Now, where we are still seeing a lot of activity from is from the Six River complex. Now, the problem and the reason why we're seeing the most activity here, because it didn't really see any rainfall from the recent rain. It just didn't make its way as far as northwest. So that's the reason why we're seeing that. However, some of these smaller fires with the complex, like this one here, you can see we're only seeing yellow. So the distances here for Smith River, for Crescent City and Hyuchi, those haven't changed. But where we have seen the most change over the last few days has been with the bigger part of the fire. So you can see here a lot of red on the map indicating that that's 0 to 6 to even 12 hours recent activity here. So again, what we're seeing most of the growth is kind of this part of the fire and also this part. So some of the changes here, we have two different parts of the fire that I'm kind of measuring for Hyuchi, because you've got this part here and then another fire down here, which hasn't been as active. You can see some gray color. So that, I mean, you're going into the 5, 6, 7 days old, right? So that is about 7.7 miles from Hyuchi. This part of the fire is about 7.2. And Gasky, this has grown closer over the last few days, unfortunately, but still about 2 miles from the latest fire perimeter. Okay, now we look at the Perch fire, same situation, right? You're looking at a lot of yellow on the map there indicating 2 to 3 days old, and we're not seeing any red, and that is about 2.3 miles from the latest fire perimeter. Again, this hasn't changed. This is great news for the community of Hoopa, not to mention Willow Creek. You can see we're seeing a lot of yellow on the map here and gray. So we're talking, 4 or 5 days old. No red. That's the key. We don't want to see any red on this map. The only red that we're indicating here is that line, which is the latest fire perimeter, looking at those distances. And again, just kind of want to zoom it in closer to the town of Hoopa here. You can see the southern portion of the community. Here is a look at Trinity River, and the firefighters are doing a great job in keeping it on the east and the north side of that river here, and haven't seen much growth, haven't seen much change with that fire perimeter over the last few days either. The pilot fire, a lot of yellow on the map there, good, right? There you can see, of course, we're not seeing much change here, those distances. Sulfur fire, I may be taking this out of the mix in tracking the distances because the overall containment is getting much higher and we're not seeing much growth. And overall, just haven't seen much growth with this fire at all. So a lot of these communities don't necessarily have to be too terribly concerned with the sulfur fire as we get closer and closer to containment there. Looking at the lost fire, yellow again on the map, even some gray on there indicating some older activity, no recent activity, no new growth with that fire here as we look at that latest fire perimeter. Here's a look at the forecast smoke, and you can see here that most of the smoke over the next really 24 hours is going to be within the vicinity of where the Six Rivers complex is. It kind of spreads a little bit to the east and then a little bit to the south as well at times. So we will be looking at a lot of smoke in this general area here, northern Humboldt, most of Del Norte County, and western Siskiyou County. Outside of that, it'll just be in the form of some haze. So certainly some good news there. Not everyone is getting a lot of that smoke. All right, so outside of the fires, what we're tracking next is the potential for more thunderstorms. And unfortunately, you know, just a few days ago, it didn't look very promising for thunderstorms, but now it's looking a lot more promising for Trinity County tomorrow to see some activity here. But cooler and no heat waves are in sight. So that's certainly some good news, at least there. Now we can see the hazy skies at times for today. Temperatures are going to be the low 90s inland and for the coast in the upper 60s. And for Trinity County, we've got the mainly sunny skies, not as much in the way of smoke, but still maybe some haze out there. Temperatures mid to upper 80s. It's warming up a little bit here, but nothing major. We don't have really any mechanisms at this point for today to give us any thunderstorms, but by tomorrow, that may change. And I'll show you on Futurecast what's going on. Number one, what we're going to notice, at least inland and especially in Trinity County, western Siskiyou County, is what we call these afternoon buildups. It's the afternoon cumulus clouds that build up. So looking off in the distance, you'll see those clouds developing, but no rain or thunderstorms today at all. All right, so now we take into Thursday. Yeah, this is what I didn't want to see or don't like to see, is the development of potential for thunderstorms. Now, this forecast model has tended to be just a little aggressive on the overall strength of the thunderstorms, especially as you go out a day or two, but we certainly have that in the forecast. And this is another thing I'm watching closely, is the potential for some activity in Del Norte County. Now, this will be good in the sense that the rain will be really good to get on that fire. However, the other problem is if this thunderstorm should take shape over the Six River complex, what that will mean is that we could be looking at some gusty, erratic winds, and not to mention lightning strikes. We don't want to see any more lightning strikes, but we could be looking at that here as we go into Thursday evening for Trinity County and some of the inland areas of North Humboldt County, not to mention Del Norte County as well. But then by Friday, it looks like that activity is pretty much gone. And I'm anticipating, looking at the long range, that we're not going to see any more activity on top of that. The wave heights, they're picking up a little bit here this afternoon, but as we go into your Thursday, they may start to drop a little bit around 6 to 7 feet. So your marine forecast for your Wednesday today: north winds at 5 to 15 knots, waves from the northwest at 5 feet at 5 seconds. There's your low tide, your high tide this afternoon, and there are no alerts at this point. All right, so here's your forecast for today. Just some of those clouds developing in the afternoon for inland and especially in Trinity County. Temperatures are warming up a little bit, but nothing major as far as heat is concerned. We look at that 7-day outlook. I have included the chance for some late afternoon and evening showers and possible thunderstorms here for both Hoopa and Weaverville, and not to mention as you head out into Del Norte County. So, you know, could Crescent City get in on some of that shower activity? Most likely not. I think it'll stay to the east of the coast, but certainly something worth monitoring here very closely. Looking at that 7-day outlook for Eureka, temperatures in the mid to upper 60s, really in the mid 60s though once we get into Friday through the weekend and into early next week.